No matter what, WikiLeaks has made a huge splash with the way the public is getting information, with the information itself. In fact, this is the time of year when Time magazine releases its Person of the Year. I'm going to go ahead and put my money on Julian Assange, founder and the face of WikiLeaks. Now, there are so many ways that the country and the world has been impacted by this, but to what extent and how specifically? Poet, lyricist, and philosopher and writer Phil Rockstro is in our New York studio. And Phil, I want to start with something you wrote. You ask, why is the corporate media so deeply invested in promulgating, distracting, and miss-the-point narratives, hyper-adrenaline arguments of the narrowed context and little consequence, and in general, trafficking in piffle packaged as news and public debate, rather than showing even a passing interest, much less an avidity for the pursuit of stories that confront power and might present a challenge to that present order? So I'll ask you that question.
Well, I mean, it's a lot easier than actually doing real work, isn't it? I mean, you know, there are real consequences for going after power. And this way, they essentially get to play the news media. They get to play a role, and there would be, you know, like I said, there would be real actual consequences when one confronts power. I mean, that's going into what they call in the media a buzzsaw. Literally, careers are destroyed by that. And so if you have opportunists, if you have careerists who have a mercenary attitude about rising through this corporate structure and the bureaucracies, which are these, you know, 7 or 8 great media conglomerates, you begin to internalize what it is your bosses want. And it's very destructive to a career to actually upset people with real power. So instead, we get these distracting narratives, we get these hyper-adrenaline arguments that mean nothing of narrowed context. And it works as entertainment, but it's actually kind of a propaganda tool, though much more loose-knit than the old-style propaganda tools. It works the same way to keep the public really unaware of what goes on in private. So, you know, the organization, these news media structures, the structure of it is very the same as any bureaucracy, and challenging power within any bureaucracy is a difficult task.
Let's talk about, you know, this release, especially the latest one, but sort of all the different releases on WikiLeaks. Who are the winners and who are the losers?
Well, I mean, the winners are going to constantly be the way the game is rigged now, is the present structure. You know, these are going to spiral through the news cycle, and then they're going to be crowded out by other stories. And just, you know, for the same way after Watergate in the 1970s, we heard the propaganda that our long national nightmare is over. Then in the 80s with the Iran-Contra scandal, we heard we have to save the presidency. And then Bill Clinton got in office, and he pardoned the felons from Iran-Contra. So the same players show up time and time again, the same group of elites. And when Obama got in office, he, as the WikiLeaks disclosures have shown, he pressured the Spanish government not to press war crimes charges against the Bush administration. So who benefits from this are the criminal organizations in place, which, you know, that's what government is when the power is this incommensurate. They work like any criminal shakedown organization. And, you know, this shakedown happens in the financial realm, for example, where, you know, the casino gamblers on Wall Street fleece the American public. The American public's tax money takes care of it. And the players of the national security state, where there's lots of money involved in having a national security state. So the winners from this are the people who the game is rigged for, and it's been rigged in that manner for quite some time.
What, you know, what about the assertion, some people saying this now, that the latest WikiLeaks dump is a little more gossip than content, that, you know, most people already knew about the personalities of some of these other world leaders, Karzai, Putin and Medvedev, of Sarkozy, you know, that this was already known?
Well, it works perfectly with the media structure now of what news working is superficial gossip as a means of distraction. And, you know, and I'd like to get into why, you know, I think, you know, we have a tendency to think vast conspiracies are behind this, but there's kind of an internalization of what people in any state or any organization do. So we've been exposed to the commercial media for so long. We live in this vast hologram of this imagery that it's been internalized. It saturates us. It's become a part of our inner architecture. It becomes our lexicon, our shared way of talking. And so within that, within this structure, who benefits from it becomes the same people who can exist in this medium.
Phil, we're almost out of time.
So, I think that...
We're almost out of time, but just real quick, I just want to know, what do you wish you would have seen from this WikiLeaks?
What do I... Oh, well, you know, I mean, I think, like you said, that we just... To the people that are paying attention, this works well, as I expressed in the article, that it shakes the foundation of the U.S. House of Empire, so much so that, you know, we can be entertained by watching the skeletons dance. I mean, you know, years ago I had a friend that moved into this old Victorian house, and it was just filled with cockroaches, and he tried everything to get rid of the cockroaches. He tried, you know, poisons. He tried, you know, roach motels. I mean, he had roach subdivision motels in there. And nothing worked. And being an artist, he finally just started spray painting every individual roach he came across
Phil,
with this spray paint.
I'm so sorry, we're out of time, but that certainly is an interesting way to deal with the problem. Phil Rockstro, poet, lyricist, and philosopher.